Hey, I'm Grant. Welcome to the channel for October 15th. So this week I have the podcast coming out on Friday. So far it seems like I've covered any major technological hiccups that we'll have. So in theory I haven't edited it yet, but in theory it should be something that goes fairly smoothly. If not, I'll just keep tweaking it for the next podcast. Otherwise, spend some more time on my Ruby on Rails project. That's coming along pretty well. I'm to the point where now I really am not technically into just like some of the more optional stuff that the book covers. So in theory, I'm hoping either this month or maybe next month to actually start building something. I have an idea for a site I'd like to build that's kind of like a midway where it doesn't need a lot of functionality because I'm not going to really use it. It's just going to be mostly static. But I'm thinking of building that and having that be its own little thing so I can be like, look, I did this. And then once I do that, I can take the lessons I learned from that for the main site. So that should be interesting, but it's kind of a chore, I'll be honest. Like, I spent 30 minutes getting through like one page of the book just because I kept hitting like technical issues. So that was rough. So otherwise, hopefully everything's going well. I spent some time, I want to do more live action stuff. I've been saying that for months, so I actually tried to sit down and I wrote a tiny little script. The entire thing's probably 20 seconds. I wanted to keep it kind of short, where it's just a little back and forth with me and probably Jamie over in my kitchen just doing something simple like that. And I want to sit down and I want to actually film it. Like, okay, we have, I guess it's all one scene, but we have like this one cut. I want to do 5 different takes, and if I think they're all kind of good, move to the next one, do 5 takes, do everything, and then sit down and actually kind of, again, properly make this thing. Like, go in, log all the footage, tile everything. Okay, this is cut 1, take 1, okay, this is cut 1, take 2, what do I prefer? Like, can I mix all these in? I really want to make sure I do that, but I need to find a day where everything just like works out, where I can get me, I'm free, Jamie probably is free. 3, this is going to be really specific, but the weather's alright, because one of the reasons I didn't do it this weekend was like, it was just super overcast, and it was just really dark in my apartment. Like, I guess I could get out every single light I have and make it work, but then it would look super unnatural because, yeah, I have a bunch of bright lights, though that doesn't seem normal for a home, even though in theory it could kind of work. I'd much rather do just like natural sunlight, but to do that I need the sun to be out, and that's not something I can control. And it might come out, but it might be on a day where it's like, oh, it's just me here. So I don't know. Although as part of doing this script thing, I'm hoping to do is being able to do stuff like something you'd have to do like a real production is like, right, you have to schedule stuff. So like, technically, I only need Jamie for like 2 shots. So maybe what I should do is like, hey, today is good, let me film this tiny little object interaction I need, and then I'll pull that in. But it's also something I'm excited for. I just need everything to kind of come together. So, but I think things are progressing really well. So far I'm still on route, I guess you could say, with the Ruby on Rails stuff. I felt kind of bad taking time to go improve my podcast workflow, but I think in the long run, being able to do that in one day instead of a whole week is going to accelerate me more over the course of me working on this project than it would be to just have that extra time right away on the Ruby on Rails stuff. And I'm hoping to keep doing that. I've definitely really sparked, like, I'm going to sit down and really try to understand my equipment. Like, I'm going to take another pass through a lot of my shortcuts in my editor this week, and that's something that's like might seem a little weird, but like sure, this only takes me 3 seconds to click the button, but it takes me 1 second to do a shortcut. And I hit that button like 1,000 times each podcast, so it's a big deal. Stuff like that. Just go through and maybe, like, I have a bunch of ones I like, but I know I never sat down and like laid them out. Like I have like one, and this is dumb, I don't know why I did it, but like jump forward and back between cuts is like on my left hand, but skip frames is on my right hand. So I have to constantly keep moving my hand from my mouse to my keyboards to do that, or I have to use the mouse, and it's like, why did I do that? I should have everything on the left hand. Like, that seems like so obvious in retrospect, but I just need to sit down and do it. And as part of that, I think maybe what I'll do is I'll sit down and I'll actually, I'm promise with myself, I want to edit that Soul Reaver footage. It's not, it's been on the back burner because I want to do it, but there's really no reason I need to. I think that could be a fun way to mix things in, where it's like, okay, I'm going to, same with Dead Rising Chop to Drop, which is why I did this, where I'm just going to go in, I'm just going to reset all of my keyboard shortcuts that I want to change, and then I'm just going to force myself to edit like 30 episodes of this. Because the point isn't to make the little series, that's whatever. You know, I already played it, that's whatever, it's fine. But if you sit and make myself do this for 30 episodes, I guarantee you I'm going to memorize those new shortcuts because of it. And I'd rather do that on something that kind of doesn't matter, if that makes sense, versus trying to learn it while doing the podcast or something like that. So, just gonna keep staying the course. Hopefully I'll have more time to fit everything in. I'm looking to take some more PTO. I'm hoping end of the month-ish. And I'd like to do another day where I just sit down and I work on Ruby on Rails or a podcast or something for 8 hours. Like that, it's weird because it's very hard to sit down and get that time, even if I theoretically have the free time for it. But able to like work it as a job is a big deal. Like I remember I did it one day for PTO and it was just like this huge lurch forward. Like instead of me being done next month, I was like done that week on that project I was doing. So I'm really hoping to just to get that in and get everything kind of work together. So exciting. I'm glad everything's going well. I'm hoping to explore some more stuff for the podcast. Again, one of the other things I want to do with having more time from not having to spend forever editing it is I'd like to produce it more, if that makes sense. I want to do more stuff like, what's the opening question that kind of like launches the podcast? Like that's a big thing. I've been noticing a lot. It's like having a good one right there, like that can make or break an individual podcast because you just start and you go and it's good, or you kind of just like peter out and stuff. Or have more like just different like segments. Like I like the idea of saying like, okay, well, I do these kind of segments. Like Super Lou's like, we have one where let's say talk about news, maybe a gaming section, something like that. And it's not really too strictly done, but the idea is we try to hit like everything just to kind of like have the conversation keep rolling and do different things. And then I can like plan it more often. So like, okay, Andrew, you're coming on, so we're going to talk about this. Jamie's coming on next week, so we're not going to talk about it specifically so we can get her on, and then I kind of have the structure. I can just fill it in with my regular stuff. So I'm hoping to do all that. We'll see though how it goes. It's something where I always mean to, but it kind of sneaks up on me in the meantime. But as always, you can contact me over on Twitter. It's at taken4grantd, or my email. It's grant@taken4grantd.com. And I'll be back again next week.